While I didn't actually play at all, I didn't even make a 12 that tour, which was really hard. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really upset when I wasn't being picked in 12s. But I think like the realist in me knew that this, even though I'm not playing, I'm learning so much by being here, the training environment, learning how a tour works, even. And it also made me realize how much I wanted to be there and how much I cared. I think if I went there and I was just happy being there, then I think that would almost be a bad sign. I just knew from that tour how much I wanted it and how much I was willing to work to get my debut, get my first shot being in at 12. I feel like sometimes Joe's kind of like our older sister slash mum. But yeah, no, we have a really good friendship and relationship. And I think she's taught me so much, even just about taking wins and losses, I think, as well. You know, it's been a roller coaster, to say the least, of the Giants in the past few years. You know, my first year made a grand final, then we're in, you know, maybe 2 more final series, and we've missed it a few, then we finished wooden spoon. So I think we've kind of experienced it all. And I think something that she is really good at is holding a group together in those moments, and how can we find the positives in a really tough situation.
Hello, and welcome back to The Sporting Scoop, a podcast that takes a deep dive into the lives of sport's biggest trailblazers. In today's episode, I chatted to Sophie Dwyer, Giants Netball player and Australian Diamond number 187. Having played all her elite netball with the Giants, Sophie broke onto the scene in 2021 as she was thrust into the starting goal attack role following Kira Austin's knee injury. From there, she hasn't looked back and has since become one of the country's most dominant shooters and a regular in the Diamonds dress over recent years. Join me, Georgia Doyle, as we chat about her early career, the struggles she faced during her first few years in the Diamonds environment, and how she deals with the mental side of sport when the results aren't necessarily going your way. Welcome back to The Sporting Scoop. Today I'm joined by Sophie Dwyer from Giants Netball and the Australian Diamonds. How are you today, Sophie?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Enjoying the sunshine down here in Adelaide, which is always nice if the weather starts to get a bit colder. So I want to start back in your sort of early days, that debut you had for the Giants back in the COVID hub. You sort of would have got that call from Julie, I assume, saying, all right, we've got to all move up to Queensland. We're going to bring an extended squad. We'd like you to come with us. What was your sort of reaction response when you got that phone call asking you to sort of shift your whole life essentially up over the border?
Yeah, I think I still remember when we were sitting in Netball Central, with I guess our training courts, and Julie kind of told us that I think the season's going to be in a hub up in Queensland. And obviously I was a training partner, so I didn't really know what that meant. She did mention that I guess extended squads were going to be taken, you know, 12 or even more than that. And yeah, obviously I really hoped that I would get the opportunity because I really did want to go and experience it, but you never know what was going to happen. And yeah, I think like the next day or so, Julie did call me and tell me that I was one of the 3 training partners that she wanted to take up, and like my answer was immediately yes. I really wanted to go. I had uni, but it was all online anyway because of COVID, so I could do it from up there. So it was super flexible. That was probably the only thing that was might have been holding me back. And yeah, no, I definitely went in probably a bit naive into what actually was going to be on. Like it was my first year, I guess, in Super Netball anyway, and then the fact that we're now moving up to Queensland for who knows how long, really. Yeah, I just kind of said yes blindly, but it's definitely something that I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do, because I guess it was experiences probably defined the netball world and how we did a lot of things. It was one of the first years of the Super Shot as well. So yeah, no, it was definitely an opportunity that I was super happy to get. And then I was lucky enough to debut against the Swifts as well. And yeah, that's definitely a game I remember the whole 5 minutes that I was on court, and the 2 shots I got from Super Shot range as well. I was just honestly running on adrenaline probably the whole time. But yeah, I remember when Julie, I guess, nodded at me to go on, I was so surprised because there's only 5 minutes left of the game. I thought, you know, we'll just leave it as it was. But yeah, no, it was very exciting. And to run out from the interchange box was, yes, something that I'll literally never forget. So yeah, very exciting year for me.
Because you had that whole year up then, because your debut was quite towards the start of the season, I think, wasn't it? Through the hub.
Yeah, round 1.
Yeah. How was it then for the rest of the year or rest of that season, being up there and sort of having that such insular group of players, not being able to sort of do too much outside of netball, especially since it was your sort of first year in that environment?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. Like as much as I talk about it being a great experience, it was also very hard for everybody. Being young and probably naive, I think that I was like just taking every opportunity as it came, and I was loving everything. I was soaking it all up, and but it does come with a lot of I guess adversity in the fact that we didn't do fabulously that year either. And I think just the point of having netball live and breathe 24/7, and people that don't go back to their support networks and kind of get their time away to be able to show up 100%. I think the whole league, that's something that, everyone would have struggled with no matter if you're winning or losing. But yeah, no, definitely it was a long time up there. And I was only 18. I hadn't lived out of home. I hadn't done anything for myself. I had barely cooked and cleaned. So that was a big learning experience for me in itself. But we did play, they were called scratch matches, but they were kind of like almost like trials type thing, in that all the girls, that mostly the younger ones that weren't playing heaps, a lot of the extended squad / training partners would come together midweek, and we would play a bit of a game against each other, and they'd have our names up on the list of who's on what quarter, and that kind of was our way of still getting the minutes in, because obviously we're missing out on I guess playing, and playing is what you need to be playing to improve. So that was kind of how my weeks looked. Would train with the team, have these midweek games, and then be a real support for the SSN games. But anytime that I was on the bench, even though I only really played about 5 minutes that whole season, it was definitely something that I treasured, and I wanted to be in Super Net for as long as I could remember. I was a massive netball nerd, so yeah, it definitely was an experience that was very unique, but very, very took a lot out of it.
You talk about being a bit of a netball nerd in your own words. Were there any particular players that you watched growing up that you really sort of idolized, tried to sort of model your game on, that you looked up to when you were a kid?
Yeah, definitely. There would be two that kind of come to my mind always. And the first one was Susan Pettit. She was the, I guess, goal attack for New South Wales and also for the Diamonds when I was growing up. And I was just so in awe of her. I wanted to be her when I was older. She was definitely someone that I would watch religiously. And I was actually lucky enough to be digitally presented my Diamonds dress by her. And that was another whole amazing part, and I was like so in awe that she was the one that they chose to do that, so that was very exciting as well. That's a little side note. But the second player would be Maria Folau, because of her ability just to turn and shoot. As much as I don't want to say a non-Aussie, but she was just like the best at it, and would just turn from anywhere and go to posts. And especially when I was younger and practicing, I would just do that and practice from the edge of the circle, and I wanted to be her when I was older. So yeah, definitely, I guess the court craft of Susan Pettit, and then I guess the shot that Maria Folau had, would definitely be the two people that I idolized and wanted to, I guess, play like.
You say it's tough putting a non-Aussie in that sort of list, but yeah, when you've got players like her, and then I think Laura Langman's another one who's obviously a Kiwi.
Yeah.
So many, I think netballers across the globe always just dream of being like one of those players, because regardless of what country they played for, they're a great of our sport, and forever will be, just for their individual talents that they've got out there on court. And it's definitely something that anybody, regardless of what country they're playing for, want to try and emulate when they're out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You talk about having that sort of, that 5 minutes on court for the whole of season 2020, cut to 2021, first game of the season, Keir Austin unfortunately goes down and does her knee. You're up. What was that season like for you, presumably sort of expecting to play a bit more of that sort of impact bench role, then all of a sudden being thrown into the starting seven after that first game?
Yeah, it was definitely a big year, and obviously it is a pivotal part of my career. I guess the trajectory went very quickly from there. I think, I look at that team in 2021 that was signed, and I was sharing the circle with Joe Harden and Kira Austin, and I was this 19-year-old that had played 5 minutes. Like, I really didn't think that I was going to get on a lot. I thought I had a really good preseason, and the preseason games that I had an opportunity to play in, I thought I was holding my own. And, Kira had a lot of Aussie commitments, I guess, in that January period. So I did get quite a bit of time in preseason, which I think is very lucky with how everything turned out, that I did have those minutes to get a bit of confidence in me. But yeah, honestly, round one, I couldn't even really tell you what happened that whole game. Everyone always asked me about it, and I just think I was just in shock that I was even playing, because it happened in the first quarter, and the rest of the game we won, and then I thought about it and I was like, oh my God, I have now potentially this whole year being a starting player. And I think round one was actually fine. Like, I wasn't that worried. I was just going out and playing because I had no time to think about it. And then between round one and round two, I was so worried. And I think I just knew this was my chance and I really wanted to take it fully with both hands. But I also was worried of what would happen if I wasn't good enough, I think. And, I thought I could match it, but then there's always that doubt in your mind. And when you're so young and, you have this amazing opportunity, I just didn't want to, lose it. And I didn't want to, I guess, reflect on that year going, oh my God, look what I had and I didn't make the most of it. So there was all these thoughts happening between round one and two. And I think once I got out there on that court for round two, it was the first ever game at KRA. So there's a lot of talk about that as well. But yeah, I think that game I just had to get through. It wasn't pretty for me personally, but I just got through that game. And as soon as that one happened, I think the rest of the season I was fine. I knew I could match it. I had Jo behind me and she gave me so much confidence. She would talk to me literally for the whole 60 minutes. I don't think she would stop talking to me. Give me lots of encouragement, lots of direction, just so I didn't feel alone out there, I guess, and that she was in my corner. And, I couldn't thank her enough for how she supported me on the court that year. And then also having Kira, she was literally like a mentor / coach for me that whole year. I know how hard it must be for her missing out a whole year, but I think like she really, really was pivotal in impacting my, I guess, ability to play out on court. She was backing me. She was giving me feedback. There's photos of us in the change room and she'd be sitting next to me, helping me. And I think that speaks a lot to her character as well. And like I will always, speak so highly of her and what she did to help me that year, because I don't think I would have got through it, honestly, without Jo and Kira. Yeah, it definitely was a year that I look back on and I'm so proud of how I was able to get through the year and able to really not only get through, but stamp my mark, I guess, on the Super Netball court and show that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can match it if you have the opportunity and you work hard. Then honestly, who knows what can happen. And yeah, that's why it's so nice to see that there are a lot of other young ones coming through now, and everyone's taking the opportunity. We have Hope White in our team doing the same thing. So yeah, it definitely was a year that set me up for my career, but also I think it does come with a lot of that hard work and prep I did in that preseason. I knew that I could do it, so I just wanted to go out there and show myself and I guess everyone else that I could too.
Yeah, I think what you said there in terms of, that first game, you don't have a chance to think about it. You just get thrown in and have to deal with it, whatever happens. But
yeah,
that second week of you've had that whole week to mull over it and you're like, oh, I have to,
yeah.
do I have to do this again? But I've got to do it for another, 13 more games plus then into finals. And yeah, that time. And then you've got players have got the chance to sort of start figuring you out and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That pressure really starts to then build. But as you've said, that support you got from Jo and Kira, I think that's something that's come up with a few of these chats that I've done, is that netball, doesn't seem to be any gatekeeping in netball. Everybody wants everybody out there to be the best, whether that be with they're the one on court, they're the one on the bench, whatever it is. Everyone just wants to share all the knowledge. And I think that's a really special thing about netball, is that everyone just wants everybody else out there to succeed, which I think shows in those tough moments when you've got a player like yourself that's come out in that first year and everyone wants you to do the best.
Yeah, definitely. I think like at all levels, like even at the Diamonds, I think the same thing. It's the most competitive environment, but it also has such a squad first mentality in that like it doesn't matter who's playing, everyone just wants to win. And obviously there's a part of you that you want to be on the court, but it's just so evident that even when I go up to Diamonds that like everyone there just has everyone's back. And it's the beauty of a team sport, I guess. But I feel like especially in the netball community, everyone just wants success for the team, success for individuals, but are just so happy for other people's successes as well, which is, yeah, definitely something very special about netball.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned the Diamonds a little bit there. After that first year of that SSN experience in 2021, you got an invite to be at the camp with the Diamonds towards the end of that year, and then you went on tour with them in January of 2022. What was that experience like, getting that phone call for after your first year being invited to camp, to then being able to go over and tour with them over in England the year after?
Yeah, it was definitely a massive surprise. That phone call from Stacey, I still remember when she said, would like you to invitee for Diamonds Camp. I was shocked, super excited, but so nervous. Straight away, I was so nervous. Like, I guess similarly to how I was when I first played for Giants, there's probably even more so in the Diamonds environment that like I looked up to this group for so long. Like I was wearing my Diamonds merch in the stands, as I was a little girl. So to now be, given a training singlet that was green and gold to wear, and even have to put on a first dress for the media shoot, and all of that was just so exciting for me. And there's people there in the Diamond Squad still, but then that I had looked up to and watched playing, and now I'm training with them. And yeah, no, I was super, super excited, super nervous, but just wanted to take it all in. I knew that a few girls there, but not many. So that was also a really new thing for me, that to try and be confident in an environment where I didn't know a lot of people, and being so much younger as well, didn't probably help. But they were all super welcoming. They all went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and that I was coping, because it is very competitive, super high pressure environment. That tour, we actually didn't end up playing any international matches because of COVID. We were meant to, but then that kind of got cancelled. So we just did some internal match play. And even that was such a high standard, and something that is definitely a step up from SSN, and nothing I'd ever done before. But I think as soon as I got the taste, I knew that I really wanted to be there again. I really wanted to be in the actual squad. So then when Stacey told me that after that training camp, I'd been elevated to be in the squad, and then I was traveling over to London for the quad series, that was, very, very exciting as well. And something that I literally won't forget ever, that phone call. I'd never been over there before, like to the UK. So that was a first for me. I didn't really get to see much except the netball court and the hotel, because everything was still very much on COVID protocols. But I've been back since, and that's it. So I have done my traveling. But yeah, no, while I didn't actually play at all, I didn't even make a 12 that tour, which was really hard. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really upset when I wasn't being picked in 12s. But I think like the realist in me knew that this, even though I'm not playing, I'm learning so much by being here, the training environment, learning how a tour works even. And it also made me realize how much I wanted to be there and how much I cared. I think if I went there and I was just happy being there, then I think that would almost be a bad sign. I just knew from that tour how much I wanted it and how much I was willing to work to get my debut, get my first shot being in at 12. So yeah, when I came back, I guess, to Super Netball that year, I was like, I really, really want to give this a red hot crack, because I know how much it'll mean to me when it does happen. And yeah, so it was sad not playing, but definitely I'm so grateful that happened, because when I went into my next tour, I felt really confident. I knew how things went. I didn't have to worry about that. I could just focus on my own performance. Yeah.
I think it's definitely the sort of thing, as we know, no one plays sport to be sitting on the bench, but as you've said, you don't realize how special it is to be out on court until you've sort of done that time on the sidelines. So I think that
Yes, exactly.
time on the bench makes you appreciate that time on court so much more.
Yeah, definitely. I think like even when my debut happened, I think I'd been in the 12 maybe once out of a potential 9 opportunities. So as much as I'd been in and around the environment for a little while, when I did make my debut, I hadn't been in the 12 and presented my dress. So when it did happen, definitely, as you said, it made it very extra special. And it was something that I look back on and I'm grateful for. Like, hindsight's a great thing. In the moment, I was obviously upset, but then now I look back on it and I know, like, those trainings and being in the environment and working out how tours worked was just so invaluable for when it did come around. I could just focus on getting out there and playing.
Definitely. And you talked about that debut. You said, Susan Pettit got to present you, even if it was over Zoom or whatever it would have been.
Yeah.
With your dress, and then you made your debut at the Constellation Cup against New Zealand, which is probably the biggest rivalry we've got in our sport, and one of the most coveted trophies other than the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games. So how was it stepping out on court against New Zealand? They obviously play quite a different style to what we do in Australia, particularly with that more sort of zone defense. So how prepared did you feel stepping out on court for not only to be representing Australia, but to be coming up against something that you don't necessarily see week in, week out at the Super Netball level?
Yeah, I think like even when I go back to the dress presentation, which was I guess the start of that whole debut experience, but I was like burst into tears. I still remember when I saw the dress and it had Dwyer on it, and I was actually going to be putting it on and actually wearing it. Like, it's something that is like unlike anything else. And I think even though I knew it was going to be special if it happened, like if I got the opportunity, you'd never really know until it happens. And like there was just so much emotion, and I was just so grateful that I was now part of the legacy that it is the Diamonds, and it's such a special group. So yeah, definitely was a day I'll never forget. I was so emotional. I was so embarrassed. I was crying so much, but it just obviously meant so much. So yeah, and then the next day when we actually put it on and we're off to the courts, yeah, definitely was a different style. But I think because we know how New Zealand are, we know they're going to be off body, we know that they're doing zones. We do prepare for that, and our training environments, all our drills are based on that. So as much as I hadn't come up against it myself, we'd done PA video analysis on all the players and saw their, I guess, structures. We'd had our defenders do that for us so we could practice against it. So it wasn't super foreign, but it's nothing like the real thing when you're actually out there. And I think, the 10 or so minutes, maybe a bit more that I played, it definitely was an added level of intensity. And I think that just comes not only from being out on court, but just having the Australian-New Zealand rivalry being so strong. But yeah, no, I did feel comfortable and confident out there. I just wanted to take my shots as normal and just play as if I was playing a training game and just not overthink it too much, because I think the occasion of it and how special it was potentially has the ability to just override just getting out there and doing your job. So that was definitely my focus, and what the coaches said to me before that game is, if you get out there, just go and do your thing, know your strengths and just play. And I was really glad that they had that confidence in me, and they had the ability to come tell me that, to just be like, go and do your thing. We back you. You're in the 12. You're going to be out there potentially because of what you're good at. So just go and, I guess, do that and back yourself. So yeah, it was an amazing day. Again, probably don't remember a lot of it. I think this is probably the theme of most of my, I guess, first opportunities. You just get thrown out there and they called over on the bench, you're going on, and then it just happens very quickly. And then I guess my second test and onwards is probably the ones that I can really remember and know that I know I was, able to be out there and do my thing and just back myself. But yeah, that first game, anything could have happened. I couldn't really tell you what happened, but I know that I felt good.
That's the main thing. As long as you felt good and you enjoyed it, that's definitely the
yeah, definitely.
And yeah, you said, it might have only been a few minutes in that first series, and it seemed like for you in particular, those first couple of series that you're out, you'd sort of get little tastes of court time here and there, but it certainly seems like probably over the last 12 months, you've been able to get that more significant court time, a few starts, all that sort of thing. So how do you feel like you've evolved in that Diamonds space from being that sort of impact play that might come on, for 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the game or end of the quarter, to now sort of getting the chance to actually start and get the game going?
Yeah, I think the main thing is almost feeling confident in the setups and our game plan in the Diamonds. I think, it is something that we're really, really proud of, is our game plan, and how no matter who's on the court, we have the structures, and we know the structures that we put out there consistently can win. And I think a lot of, I guess, for me, is my mindset, in the fact that when I was younger in the team and everyone would say, it's okay, you're young, you're getting a taste. I think I heard that so much at the beginning of my career that I got a bit sick of it. And I was like, I don't really care if I'm the young one anymore. I want to show that I can be out here. And, I had conversations with Stacey, with coaching staff, saying like, I feel like I am improving and I'm getting better and I'm feeling more confident in this environment. Like, what do I need to do to get, a bit more consistent court time, and what do you need to see from me? And she always has very open communication with feedback and what she wants from us. So I just tried to do my best to implement that as much as possible. And I think even small things like, speaking up more in meetings and things like that, that I might have, sat back and let the older, more experienced girls lead. I was trying to really, I guess, improve in that space as well, as not just on the court, but what can I contribute off the court in these meetings to show that I'm really ready and I have done the analysis. I know what we need to do to beat these oppositions. So that's probably like the area more so than even the on-court stuff that I did try and really improve in, and probably still am trying to improve in that international space. And I think as much as that, it's just in training environment as well. I wanted to, put my best foot forward, train as hard as I could, try and make improvements in not only the tactical stuff, but in S&C, and just put myself in the best position possible for them to be really confident in putting me out there, not only for 10 minutes, but for longer periods. And then, being confident enough to give me a start. And, I knew that I could do it. And I think just getting out there and being confident in that, and having the girls around me back me, like I said, having the squad first mentality, whoever's out there, everyone is going to be biggest support and wants you to succeed. So just going out and doing my thing and knowing that we've done all this hard work, now's the fun part, now's the playing. So just get out there and do it.
Yeah, reaping the rewards of all the hard work of the stuff that you've done in the background is certainly always what you're looking to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So you talked a bit earlier about that sort of relationship with Joe Hart and Kira Austin as well, that first year at the Giants where you had that real breakout year, and you're still playing with Joe now. How's she been as sort of a mentor and someone that's been with you pretty much that whole Super Netball journey? And what are some of the things, not only in the netball space, but sort of just in life more generally, that you've been able to learn from her in your years playing together?
Yeah, definitely. She's been so influential for me. And I think not only me, but also Matisse in the squad. We've been, a little trio for quite a while now, the three of us. And we have a really good relationship and understanding, I think, of each other. I feel like sometimes Joe's kind of like our older sister slash mum. But yeah, no, we have a really good friendship and relationship. And I think she's taught me so much, even just about taking wins and losses, I think, as well. It's been a roller coaster, to say the least, of the Giants in the past few years. My first year made a grand final, then we're in, maybe two more final series, and we've missed it a few, then we finished wooden spoon. So I think we've kind of experienced it all. And I think something that she is really good at is holding a group together in those moments, and how can we find the positives in a really tough situation. And I think she'll be the first person to check in on you. How are you going? Keep the confidence levels high. And I think that's something that now I try and do for other younger girls, is how can I keep that and really drive the standards, even if results aren't necessarily going our way? How can we keep confidence, keep enjoying it, having fun? We play netball because we enjoy it. And sometimes that's really hard to enjoy when you are losing. And even, the first 3 rounds of this year, how can we still realize that it's not done? We have so much belief still. We can change things around. I think that's something I've really learned from her, is to not take things too deeply, and how can we learn, move on, next thing. And she's definitely been so pivotal in my career, like on the court, off the court, in all ways. And I think Matisse would probably say the same thing. And she's definitely our biggest supporters, which is so nice when you have someone that's so much older and so much more experienced, like really, really backing the young ones in, and just knows what we can achieve. And even when we don't know it ourselves, I think that's something as well, that when, especially that first year, she knew how good we could be as a combination. She knew how good I could be. So it was really, really pushing to get that out of me, and knew that, I had so much potential. So let's really see what it can do. So, she's definitely someone that just brings out a wealth of confidence in our group.
And then you've got, the experience of Joe behind you on court. And then you've got someone like Julie Fitz on the sidelines as your coach, who's also, she's the most experienced elite level coach out there. What sort of stuff does she bring to the team? Not only obviously from a technical standpoint, when you've been around in the game that long, you've got so much technical knowledge, but she definitely seems to be one of those coaches that's very much player or person first, netballer second, and really drives that culture stuff as well. So what's that been like, being coached by her for so long?
Yeah, Jules is the best. I am so grateful to have been coached by her for so long. I think you're so right in the person first, netball athlete second. I think a happy person is going to be a happy netballer, and she'll be the first person to say, like, how are you today? Nothing to do with netball, just how are you going today? How's your uni going? How's life outside going? Because if that kind of is sorted for you, you're going to be the best version of yourself on the court. And I think even the fact that our team, if you look at the personnel, we have so many young New South Wales talented people that have come up through the pathways, and she really does back the local talent and time again. And I think that's something that she gave me when I was young. She gave me an opportunity, a shot in that first year. And she really did back me. She gave me so much confidence. She said, you can do this. And having a coach that of her experience and her, I guess, wealth of knowledge saying that to you does give you a lot of belief in yourself, and that's something that she'll always do. And I think the fact that she has that person first attitude does make it so easy to come to training as well, because that she's going to be understanding of situations. And once we're here, we're all giving 100%, but she also does care about what's going on outside and how she can help that to help you be a better athlete.
Yeah, that balance is so important for an elite sport, because obviously lots of people that life ends with netball, but there's so much more outside of it that needs to be considered as well. And that's when you're going to get the best out of yourselves, when you're happy both on the court and off the court, like you've said.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've talked a little bit about some of the sort of setbacks you've had in your career, whether that be, going on a tour and not necessarily getting the court time you were wanting, or a few seasons that haven't necessarily had the results you've looked for. How have you sort of taken yourself as part of those setbacks and then reevaluated to then sort of keep carrying on? It sounds like you said Joe has helped a fair bit with some of that, but is there anything that you sort of do within yourself that helps you sort of get up over those sort of little humps or blocks in the road that you might come up against?
Yeah, I think like even when I think about that question, I think like we're all our own worst critic. We're so critical in the first person to say like, oh, that wasn't good enough, or oh, that shot was awful, or that pass was terrible. And I think especially in times when you might not be selected in things, times when your team might be losing. I know for me personally, and I'm sure everyone would say the same thing, that you always look at what you did wrong and what you contributed to a negative performance. But I think something that I've really tried to do at the back end of last year, which was obviously a really tough year for us, was to find the positives and find what is working well. Even if you have a loss, something went well that game. And I think that probably maybe the beginning of last year, even 2 years before, that was something that I really struggled with. And I really struggled to almost take away netball and Sophie away from netball. And I think like if you had a really bad performance, it would then affect me for days later instead of being able to just drop it there, then and there. What can we learn from it? And now we move on. And that's something that I think I really pride myself on now, is thinking, okay, these are the few things that were positive. These are what was good in the game. These are my strengths. And how do we make these longer? And how do we make this happen for 60 minutes rather than go, I shouldn't have done this, that, and whatever else. So I think that was been a very big mindset shift that's helped me overcome, I guess, some hard times in really trying to focus on what I can bring to the court and what I'm going to do to dominate my opponent rather than be almost scared of losing. Because I think if you're scared of losing and you're too worried about a loss, that you're already going to be there. You're already defeated. So go in confident, go in knowing what you can do to dominate. Even if a loss happens at the end of the day, where were those moments in a match? How do we make them for longer? That's how we're going to lead to a win. And I think, yeah, that probably is the main learnings that I've had from those setbacks.
I feel like particularly as an attacker and even more so as a shooter, everyone always thinks like, oh, it was that missed shot that lost the game. But as you've said, there's, 59 minutes and 20 seconds that have gone on in the game, that so many other things, especially if it's a close loss, it never just comes down to one moment. As you said, there's so many other things to be focusing on that, yeah, if you're stuck in all those negative things, you're not going to be able to move on. You've got to find those things that worked well and figure out how to then do more of that rather than doing less of that stuff. So I think that's
exactly.
Have.
Yeah, I think even just the mindset of the smallest thing is doing more of the good stuff rather less of the bad stuff. Like even just it literally means the exact same thing, but having the phrasing that way is a more of a positive and confident mindset. And that's, I think, what then automatically, almost subconsciously helps you if you have that, I guess, terminology shift. Yeah.
We talked a little bit before about that sort of netball Sophie and then non-netball Sophie. So outside of netball, what's the sort of stuff that keeps you busy, keeps your cup full when you might be having those rougher days or rougher times?
Yeah, I definitely try and lean on my friends outside of netball. I think they're obviously always my biggest supporters. They'll come to all the games and cheer me on, but other than that, they aren't super into netball. Like they're into supporting me. So when I kind of need them outside of netball, they'll be the first person to come and be my support, and we'll go for a walk, grab some food, go to a cafe. I do love a bit of a just walk in nature and get a brunch after. That's my favorite thing to do with my friends. And then I guess I also am very into just going to the beach and reading. It's one of my like most favorite things. I'll always do it multiple times a week. It's a bit annoying at the moment with the bad weather, but I guess in summer especially, like that would be kind of my happy place. I would just go there, have some me time, read a book, just almost escape and just be outside and immersed in a book really. And yeah, that's definitely, that fills my cup. I always feel so much better. It just takes my mind off everything else. And yeah, so I guess it really does become a bit of a balance for me. I do love hanging out with my friends, but I also love that me time. It just makes me, I guess, reset and ready to hit the netball court feeling refreshed.
Excellent. Well, hopefully you're feeling nice and refreshed after the bye round that you've just had. So
Definitely.
and firing for this week, and hopefully the Giants can get some wins on the board this year, and then looking forward to seeing you running around in a Diamonds dress, hopefully for some tests later on in the year.
Thank you so much. Yeah, training's been good this week, so we're already refreshed after the bye week. I definitely feel it, and I think everyone else does. But yes, hopefully a good week for us, and then we just keep going the rest of the season.
Beautiful. Well, best of luck for the rest of the season, and thank you so much for your time today, Sophie.
No problem at all. Thank you.
This podcast was recorded on the land of the Kaurna people.